All right, I have the privilege of introducing our next speaker. I was program director during Alice's tenure as a resident. She graduated in the second class of our residency. One of our premier classes, I've got to say, for sure. And that was 25 years ago. So since that time, she's been in private practice over the last probably 20 years or so with a small break for another hospital. She's been at Banner Baywood, working full-time as an emergency physician. She's assistant clinical professor at the University of Arizona here in Phoenix. And she also has done a lot of stuff she probably will be talking about in terms of being the founder and author of a blog that I don't understand blogs and things like that, but it does get published in a variety of the emergency medical magazines that comes out. And I guess the thing that I'd like to just bring out is, as program directors, as Eric will understand, as well as Mike and Paul, is that you develop a sense of resonance, and you have certain memories of different residents, and when they go out in the community, you expect them to do well, as Alice has. I wish that each one of you had the ability to work a couple of shifts with Alice. Because one of the things that she brought, and that I say is the word that I remember about Alice, and I've seen in her practice, is compassion. So one of the things that makes it fulfilling to be an emergency physician, even with our short encounters that we have with patients, is the sense that patients have when you're taking care of them. Do you care about them? If you have an interaction with your patient, and you're kind of just going through it, they sense that. And if you actually care, they understand that compassion that you have, and they respond in a way that's positive. And it makes it more fun to be an emergency physician because your patients like you with the compassion you exhibit. And I would just say, to end the introduction, that that's something that Alice has and continues to demonstrate, is just compassion for her patients. And I think it speaks well for her, and it's been my pleasure to have her as a graduate of the program. Alice?
Thank you. Oh, good morning. Oh, I'm nervous. Sorry. This is probably the first time I've spoken in such a big group since residency. That was a long time ago. Okay, so I'm Alice Lee. I work now at Banner Baywood Medical Center, but I am a very proud graduate with one of the country's most sought after emergency medicine residencies. That's us, the Maricopa Medical Center. I graduated 26 years ago, in 1992. I'll give you a second to find Ken. He had slightly more facial hair. So I came on as, like Ken said, the second class of this residency. I was one of two women. We joined a class of 6 guys, put together, hodgepodge guys, put together, that started in 1988. And I came on in 1989 with 6 other men. So there was 8 of us in my class. That's me, that's Ken right there. That's my placard on my I think it was my locker from 89. My senior year as a resident, I actually did some work for Cigna, get a little extra cash. So when Paul Blackburn asked me to talk, excuse me. Let me go back a little bit. So I finished here in 1992, and I went right over to, at the time, it was called Valley Lutheran Hospital. It's a small hospital. At the time, we were seeing maybe 25,000 patients a day, single coverage. It's now, and has been called Banner Baywood for some time. So I was at Banner Baywood for 14 years till 2006, at which point I switched practices to another practice in the East Valley till 2010, and I've been back at Banner Baywood ever since then. I married my college sweetheart, actually, my last year residency. Now, my husband is an immensely private individual, so enough to say that I would not be here and be as successful as I am without him. But we had 2 kids. Christy, my oldest, just graduated Cornell from the engineering school with a computer science degree, and she works for Google as a software engineer up in San Jose. My son Josh, he's at Cornell, he's a sophomore now, and he's a pre-med. Hopefully he'll follow my footsteps. Last year, after 25 years of clinical practice, somehow I started this screencast on EMN called iCube. It's my labor of love. I spend way too much time on it, but I love doing it. It's once a month. I present a case, I discuss it with a colleague, somebody usually from my practice. And then, again, after 25 years of clinical practice, I somehow picked up a title. I was very excited about having a title. Assistant clinical professor, where I do some of the labs with the medical students, like intubation labs and this kind of stuff, and some of the simulation cases. So when Paul Blackburn asked me to speak at this on this day, I thought, oh, it's my opportunity to get to TED Talks, right? I'm like, oh, this is great, this is great. And then I started having palpitations because, you know, I'm not an academic, right? I'm a clinician. I work in the trenches. I've been working in the trenches for 26 years. I don't go across the country like Hasi, and talk at meetings and things. So I thought, and I prayed, and I thought, what the heck can I bring to this group of highly intelligent, motivated, distracted millennials, right? You're all millennials, aren't you? Oh. I mean the residents, not the attendings, okay? Well, so like I said, I thought about it long and hard, actually, and I thought in this era of unprecedented physician burnout and ubiquitous discussion about physician wellness all over social media, journals, conferences, I thought I would talk about resilience. Resilience. What is that? What is resilience? I thought it was a very appropriate topic to talk about. You know what I lack in intellectual prowess like Hasi has? I have plenty of experience. Okay. So according to Merriam-Webster, resilience is an ability to recover from or adjust easily to misfortune or to change, right? And according to Psychology Today, resilience is that ineffable quality that allows some people to be knocked down by life and come back stronger than ever. And according to my daughter's boss, resilience is the capacity to recover quickly from difficulties. I thought, yeah. But no matter how we define resilience, we know it when we see it, right? We know it. We recognize it when we see it. We see it in our colleagues. We see it in our patients. We see it in our faculty. We see resilience in the disabled. We see resilience in the athletes. Right? We see it. We recognize it when we see it. So I thought, what am I going to do? Talk about resilience. Am I going to do a little dissertation on it? And I was downloading things. I was reading this and reading that, getting pictures. I was creating my keynote. I got myself worked up a little bit too too nervous about this whole thing. Then I just said, you know, I'm just gonna tell you guys stories, all right, about from my life, from my experience. Why stories? Well, as physicians, it's very natural for us to be storytellers, right? Our patients tell us their stories. We tell their stories to the really stonewalling attendings upstairs or the residents upstairs. We tell the stories to our friends, our family. We laugh about the ridiculous stories that we see in the hospital when we're at happy hour. So it's very natural for me and for you guys to think about stories. So I decided I'm going to tell you about 3 very significant stories in my life. So back in 2002-ish, I'd been in practice for about 10 years. Let me paint the picture for you a little bit. My daughter at the time was 8, my son was 5. My husband was working full-time, I was working full-time. And I don't know if you know, but Banner Baywood is a geriatrics type ER, intensely busy and high critical care. So I've intubated 1,000+ patients, I'm sure, and hundreds and tons of LPs, hundreds of thousands of resuscitations, I'm sure. So about 2002, I get slapped by a lawsuit. There was an alleged Miss Cauda Equina. Alleged Miss Cauda Equina. I look at the chart. Turns out it was a patient that I was asked to see when a colleague of mine had seen the patient. The patient was unhappy with his care. Charge nurse came to me and said, Dr. Lee, can you please see this patient? Okay, sure. He was a 40-year-old guy with chronic back pain, a veteran, who came in with worsening back pain. I see him, I treat him, I send him out. 2 years later, I get a lawsuit for alleged Cauda Equina because he went to the VA a couple of days later, had left leg weakness, incontinence, and he had Cauda Equina. He had damages, permanent damages, and so they were suing us for that. So of course I was devastated. It came out of nowhere. I didn't need any more stress at that time of my life, right? 2 little kids, full-time work, my husband's full-time work. So I look at the chart. As part of the malpractice process, you have to look through the chart. And I kind of peeked at it with trepidation and I looked at what happened. So I saw this man Saturday night with my colleague, sent him home. The VA medical records show that the next day, Sunday morning, he woke up with incontinence of urine. He called the VA PA, who told him, go to the ER right now. He did not go to the ER that day. He went to the ER the next day, Monday. We saw him on Saturday. Monday, when he presented, he had leg weakness, he had incontinence of urine and stool. I found my defense. So for the next 2 years, we went through the whole process. Deposition all the way to verdict in court and all that. So there's been 2 times in my life where I felt there was a wrench in my stomach, churning and turning and turning and turning and turning and turning and turning. This was one of those days when it was the time for the lawyer to get their final argument, for me to be dismissed home to wait for the verdict. So I go home and I'm waiting, pacing, waiting. I get a call and my lawyer says, it was a split verdict. What does that mean? They assigned damages split it 3 ways. The damages they were asking for was something like about $1 million. They assigned a third of the financial damages to myself, a third to the other physician, and then a third to the patient. I was actually really happy with that, even though that was not what I wanted. I was extremely happy. You know why? Because it's over. It is over. After 2 years of this, it is over. So I think I went to bed resting a little bit more comfortably that day. Next morning I get up, to my utter shock, the sun was up, it was 100 degrees. I had to make sandwiches for my kids and make their lunch boxes, drive them to school. The world didn't stop rotating. Life went on. Second story. So around 2005 and 6, I was getting very restless at my practice. Just really kind of unhappy with what I was compensated for and how they were running the place. At the time, we didn't have all those hospitals on the East Coast. We had regularly 12-hour waits in the ER before they saw the doctor. We didn't have Mercy Gilbert. We didn't have emergency hospital. We didn't have Gateway. We didn't have all these urgent cares. So we were pretty much the only big hospital on the East Side. So I interviewed her on the Valley. And I absolutely fell in love with this practice in the East Valley. I just absolutely fell head over heels in love with them. They were people that I got along with, people from this residency. They were progressive, young, they were academically minded. I was like, okay, this is the place to go. They wanted me to go join them. I was going to be a partner in 3 years. I was like, yeah, very excited. I wanted to finish my career over there. So I go over there. I had a pretty significant dip in my income. Something like $30,000 a year. But I was willing to do that for a couple of years and be partner. So a year into it, had a meeting with the executive committee. I wasn't quite doing what they had expected me to do. All right, that's okay, that's all right. You know, I was willing to make changes, not to sacrifice my integrity, but I was willing to make changes to be more like their practice, you know. Remember the second I said that there was 2 days that my stomach felt like wrench? Well, the second time in my life when my stomach felt like there was a wrench going on in there was when it was the day of the vote. I needed 75% of the votes. I get called in the office, and they told me I didn't make partner. I did not make partner after 3 years, after meeting all the requirements. I was missing 1 or 2 votes. I was devastated, heartbroken. I felt very betrayed. But next day, guess what happened? The sun came up, it was 100 degrees. I still had to make sandwiches for my kids, right? Life goes on. This third story is probably the most painful one for me, actually. So around 2002, again, this is when the whole lawsuit thing was happening. My dad had gotten really, really sick. Had prostate cancer, had complications from that. He was hemorrhaging and the yada, 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 all this stuff. My brothers were watching over him in New York. It was overwhelming them. So I said, okay, I'm just going to move you and Mom out to near me where I can watch over them. So I moved them to about 3 miles from me. And, you know, my kids were little, we were able to spend time with Grandpa and Grandma. It was really a nice 1 year time there. But then he suffered a subarachnoid hemorrhage. And unfortunately being bedridden, but they were still near me. I was still able to help out and get them a caretaker, you know. And I felt comfortable with that. So for his 76th birthday, was 2004, January. We went over to his little apartment, and my mom had made a little dinner, and my little kids were there running around playing with Grandpa. Me, I was harried. I was like, okay, I want to get these kids done, get this done, get them home, put them to bed so I can go to bed, right? So this is in the middle of my lawsuit, remember? So we hurriedly had the cake, we ate dinner, you know. Good night, Mom, good night, Dad, get the kids home. 3 weeks later, early February, I was going home. I went home from a very busy, stressful shift, of course. I saw that my mom had left a message and was like, okay, I can't put up with her today, I really can't. So I go to bed. Next morning, Sunday morning, my older brother calls me. He goes, did Mom call you? Yeah, but I couldn't answer the phone. It was just too much. My brother says, Dad died. Dad died. So have you had this happen to you before where you like simultaneously believe what you hear and you don't believe what you hear? Right? He'd been sick for a while. It wasn't a shock. I mean, I knew he was gonna die eventually, right? But it was a shock, right? What do you think the first thought was in my head? The last time I saw him. And I felt so bad. I felt so heartbroken. I felt so bad that the last time I saw him, I wasn't really nice, you know? I was just wanting to get my kids off to school, off to bed. And I just wasn't, you know, I wasn't there. I wasn't there. And it broke my heart. It broke my heart. But I spent the rest of that day helping my mom get things arranged for, you know, we agreed we'd meet the next morning to get him a suit for the funeral. Went to bed, obviously sad, right? And next morning, guess what? The sun was up. Sunday, I didn't have to make sandwiches for my kids. I let them sleep and I went to see my mom. So, you may ask why I'm telling these stories. I'm telling them because, to me, they demonstrate or illustrate threads, concepts that weave themselves through my life, my career, that have made me resilient. So Diane Kutu of Harvard Business Review says that a resilient person has a staunch acceptance of reality. A staunch acceptance of reality. When we truly stare down reality, we prepare and act in ways to endure and survive extraordinary hardship. What I learned most from that lawsuit was that it's a game. Play it like a chess game. I know you all are probably just frightened about being lawsuited. Don't whine, don't be scared. Play it like a game, okay? Once I knew my defense, well, let me back up a little bit. Of course, the number 1, 2, and 3 rule in medicine is do no harm, do no harm, do no harm, right? And if you honestly think that you did some harm, of course, it should proceed, not like a real suit, and if you have to pay damages, that's fine. But once I found my defense, and once I accepted the fact that I was being sued, we approached the whole thing as a game. You know, they say that master chess players like Bobby Fischer, they can think moves and moves ahead. So what we needed to do, and we did, was plan the rebuttals, we planned the steps, we anticipated what they would accuse us of when their arguments against us. And we played it like a game, okay? So that's how we should need to approach it. That's what I learned from that lawsuit. One of my favorite thinkers, pastors, is John Piper, and what he says is, the real sign of forgiveness is not to seek to punish the other, but to seek the good of the other. Why didn't I make partner? Why didn't I make partner? On paper, I should have been. I put in all the hours. I had no more, no less complaints from administration or patients. I was not the fastest, I was not the slowest. Why didn't I make partner? I don't know. I don't know. Who do I blame? I don't blame me. I don't blame me. I put the blame on all those who didn't vote for me. But you know what? I absolutely refuse to let unforgiveness and resentment poison my soul. I won't let it happen. Forgiveness is more for the forgiver than forgiving. You can't go on with your life successfully if you're holding grudges and resentment and unforgiveness. Let me insert a little story here. So 2009, I'm still at this other group. I had to get up at 4 in the morning because my son kept going on some stupid trip, school trip. So I had to take him to the airport. It was like, oh God, my day off. So I look at my email and I see this email from a guy in the previous group who was like a last-ditch effort email looking for a replacement for his 6 a.m. shift because he had gotten sick. I hemmed and hawed. I'm like, all right, I'll just help him out. So I took this shift. I dropped my son off and took this shift. The significance of that story is this. That doc who put that email out and got sick was the ringleader of all those votes against me. I know that for a fact. So I intentionally choose to forgive. Sacrifice. Have you guys made sacrifices to get here? Of course you did. We've all made sacrifices, intentionally or not. You sacrifice time with your parents, sacrifice time with your spouse, your friends, your children, and a lot of times it's very painful. But the real question though to me is, was it worth it? Was all the sacrifices that you've made worth it? Sacrifice means giving up something valued for something else regarded as more important or more worthy. So this is my blog. It's a screencast, just in case you don't know what that is. A screencast is basically a podcast linked with a video slideshow. It increases your retention because it combines visual learning and audio learning. My blog is like, I just recorded my 17th, and my editor loves this blog, and I've got a fairly regular following. But the blog is replete with cases of mine, personal cases I've had at Banner Baywood. And it's a labor of love, but it also reaffirms that all those sacrifices I made was worth it. I have made a difference in these patients. One last story. So last year I saw a lady. She's 48 years old and healthy. She came in because she had been having a little bit of chest pain, substernal chest pain that week, on and off. Never had it before. Not a smoker, no family history, not hypercholesterolemia, not diabetic. None of those risk factors. But she saw the cardiologist the day before she saw me, and he had ordered a CT coronary angiogram, right, outpatient. But she comes to me on Friday morning because, gosh, my chest really, really hurt today, and I just didn't want to wait for my angiogram. Well, it's Friday morning. I figured I'd just order the CT angio that day. It's going to get done. It's the middle of the day. So this is her EKG when she first got here. You guys see anything? Anything? You know, all I saw was some inverted T's. But she said she had those during the week at the doctor's office. So, all right, whatever. It's neither here nor there. Inverted T's. Right? So I ordered a CT coronary angiogram because it was going to get done anyway. She comes back later. She tells the nurse, my chest is hurting again. I said, okay, give her a nitro, but do a EKG first, another EKG, because she's having pain again, right? This is, I think, dogma. Hopefully, you guys should be doing this. Every time they have a recurrence of chest pain, you need to repeat the EKG. Notice anything different? Right, I heard that. Subtle but real, right? Subtle but real. The T waves are inverted, deeper. I mean, they're inverted, they're deeper. Subtle but real. Gave her nitro, chest pain went away. So we wait for the CTA. Score is 0, negative CTA. I'm like, okay, this is not quite, jiving. So I'm going to put her in the hospital, talk to the hospitalist. I talked to the cardiologist. He was also concerned, so put her in the hospital. The catheter 48-year-old female, heart score of 3, no risk factors, subtle EKG changes, 99% LAD. 99% LAD. She got stented and she did well. I've been in touch with her because this is one of my cases coming up in IQ when I later on. So, in summary, I've been thinking about this, how to summarize all of this to you, for you guys. I guess what I want to say is this. I'm standing in front of you guys who are fresh at the beginning of your career, still training, or about to begin your career, like Chris is going to start pretty soon with me. And I want to encourage you and tell you that even at the 26th year of my emergency medicine practice, you can absolutely have a fulfilling, rewarding emergency medicine career. It just takes resilience. For me, it took courage to face reality. Courage and face reality. Accept it and attack it. No whining. Okay? No self-pity. Poor me, poor me. Face it and attack it. Forgiveness. You can't go on your life holding grudges and being unforgiven, unforgiving. Okay? Whether it's partners, colleagues, your children, your parents, you can't go on your life and hold that in your heart. Okay? Sacrifice. You have to come to accept that you are making and will be making sacrifices, and somehow, in your own way, come to the conclusion that it was worth it. For me, I give you a resounding, absolutely yes, it was worth it. Despite the painful sacrifices I've made. It's made a difference for all those people that I've seen. Okay? Let me end with this. One of the best and greatest stories ever told is Lord of the Rings. Okay? My daughter and I bond over this. We just love Sam. So it will articulate, I think, in art form better than I truly can articulate in a speech or a lecture what really I feel in my heart.
I can't do this, Sam. I know. It's all wrong. By rights, we shouldn't even be here. But we are. And I think, Mr. Frodo, I do understand. I know now. Folk in those stories had lots of chances of turning back, only they didn't. They kept going. Because they were holding on to something. What are we holding on to, Sam? But there's some good in this world, Mr. Frodo. And it's worth fighting for.
So let me just end this way. You and I, we have picked an utterly exhausting career. It's kind of like a marriage. The start of it, you're excited, you're like all trained, you're like, oh, I'm gonna go save lives. And you're exhilarated by the first intubation, the first successful ROS, your first chest tube, whatever. You're just so excited, you can't believe you're in such a great specialty. And then some days you are like, I'm done. I am out of here. I am so done with this. Why am I doing this? Why am I staying here? Right? Well, I've experienced all those emotions. And let me just, again, say to you, at the end of my 26th year of full-time emergency medicine, I believe all the sacrifices we made is absolutely worth it. And you can do it. You can do it in your own way, not in my way. You can do it in your own way. Because I need you, and you need me to be resilient together, right? We need to encourage each other when we see each other at conferences, lift each other up. We're going on this road together. And we are going on this road together to face humanity. Sorry, oops. We are facing humanity together in the service of humanity. Okay. Well, thank you. I'm Alice Lee. Thank you for your attention.